Please help me welcome our distinguished guests for this morning. Con nosotros el gobernador constitucional del estado de Oaxaca, el maestro Alejandro Murat Hinojosa, the governor of the constitutional government of the state of Oaxaca, Mr. Mr. Gottfried von Hemichen, the head of division for the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, Reduction of Poverty and Inequality, from the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, BMZ. Mr. Clemens Helba, Deputy Head of the Division for the United Nations 2030 Agenda and Developing and Newly Industrialized Countries, from the German Federal Ministry for the Environment, Nature Conservation and Nuclear Safety, BMU. Mr. Joop Teunissen, Deputy Chief of the Intergovernmental Policy and Review Branch from the Office for Intergovernmental Support and Cooperation from UNDESA. And last but not least, Ms. Gema Santana Medina, the General Director.
For introductions, and it's, I knew I would do this, Mr. Gottfried von Gemmingen. I knew that, please come to the front.
Estimado señor gobernador maestro Alejandro Murat Hinojosa, estimada Gema Santana, representante de la Oficina de la Presidencia de México, estimada Yolanda Martínez, secretaria de Desarrollo Social del Estado de Oaxaca, dear Teunissen, representative of the M, my colleague Clemens, and from the Ministry of Environment in Germany, and dear ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank you, Governor Hinojosa and the Mexican government, for hosting the 6th meeting of the Partners for Review Network here in the beautiful city of Oaxaca. I'm really impressed by your commitment. I'm, on behalf of BMZ, I'm really honored to co-host this meeting here in Oaxaca. I would also like to thank UNDESA for co-organizing this event for us, with us. Your expertise and the global and institutional perspective is of high value to this network meetings. And I hope that the exchange is also beneficial for strengthening voluntary national reviews at the HLPF, at the High-Level Political Forum in New York. This is the first time that a subnational government is hosting the Partners for Review Network. And we are taking this opportunity to really zero in on the subnational level and its role in monitoring and reviewing the SDGs and the voluntary national reviews. This is where the 2030 agenda is actually being implemented. And therefore we also have the chance to take a closer look at how to leave no one behind, which is also a very important principle of the 2030 agenda. And I would also like to hear from you examples how reviewing national efforts have actually also are leading to a different way of doing policies and impacts, in the end, impacts on the ground. The Partners for Review Network has grown within these 6 meetings from 57 participants at the first network meeting in Bonn, Germany in 2016 to more than 100, or around 100 this time. And we've grown from 25 countries to, in the last meeting in Berlin, it was 48 countries last fall. Now we are here. I'm proud to announce that 30 representatives of countries are here, and in addition, several representatives of international organizations. This growth shows the importance of the network as a platform for exchange on best practices, as well as the interest in monitoring and reviewing the 2030 agenda. this year, heads of state and governments will meet for the first time since the adoption of the 2030 Agenda to report and review the progress made and challenges encountered 4 years after the adoption of the 2030 Agenda. This SDG summit, as we call it, needs to provide a strong political impetus, a wake-up call to the international community to increase the ambition to deliver on the 2030 Agenda worldwide. The summit is essential to increase the momentum for the overall 2030 Agenda and with it a more ambitious monitoring and review system. Furthermore, a key signal should be the strengthening of the impact of the high-level political forum through the also the envisaged reform of the high-level political forum. And therefore, I would like to tell you very clearly, your work counts. The Partners for Review network plays a very important role in consolidating experiences in your countries with national reviews or subnational reviews for the discussions at the UN level. So thank you very much, and I wish you good deliberations within the next 2 days. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for these very inspiring opening words. Please welcome Mr. Clemens Helba. You have the floor.
Estimado señor gobernador Alejandro Murat, dear Hema, dear Job, dear Gottfried, dear Yolanda. Also from my side and on behalf of the German Federal Ministry for Environment, a very warm welcome and bienvenidos to the sixth Partners for Review meeting here in Oaxaca. It's the first, as Gottfried already mentioned, it's the first meeting hosted by a subnational government, and I'm truly pleased that it's taking place in Oaxaca. The federal government of Oaxaca is taking extraordinary efforts in implementing the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Your institutional setup, your strong cooperation with both municipalities and the federal government are only a few examples showing that you are true frontrunners in SDG achievement at subnational level. And I just learned you're planning to create a voluntary subnational review, which is quite impressive as well. So I would like to thank the state of Oaxaca and, of course, the federal government of Mexico as well for hosting this event. And I would like to thank also Endesa for co-organizing and for being here. And especially to Oaxaca for organizing this network meeting in such an impressive and committed manner. So I have the pleasure to not only be a representative of the commissioning parties, but also a participant of this network meeting. This is already my 5th network meeting, and I'm very glad to see so many familiar faces in this room. One of the key success factors of this program lies in the diversity of participants, not only in terms of the different constituencies they come from, but also in terms of taking on board actors and representatives who are new to the VNR and the follow-up and review processes. In this context, I'm extremely happy to also see plenty of new faces in this room, to whom I would like to extend a special welcome. Diversity and different experience levels, however, are also a challenge for organizers, since every participant should be able to have discussions, exchange, and takeaways that match their knowledge and demands. It is in our interest to make this network a useful source of information and maybe even inspiration for all participants. Looking at the agenda of this meeting, I believe the P4R team has yet again managed to set up a broad variety of sessions and working groups in order to live up to everyone's expectations towards this event. In this spirit, I wish you all 2 days full of useful information and inspiration. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Joop Tennyson.
Good morning. Excellency, Governor, Ms. Gamma, my friends, Clemens, Gottfried, Yolanda, dear participants, good morning. And I want to start off by thanking the Governor for giving us the pleasure of his company here today and here at the opening. And also thank him for hosting this event, which really kicked off unofficially, but very successfully yesterday, where I think I at least have learned a lot on the local experience from the state of Oaxaca and the city. We also want to thank, on behalf of the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, the government of Germany for the generous support to UNDESA, including funding the second global workshop that we have organized for the VNR countries that will be presenting in 2019 at the HLPF. That was in Bonn in Germany last February, and also for continuing to support us in the months ahead, for example, through the training that we are providing through some of the stakeholder groups, and that will participate in the July HLPF as well. And last but not least, of course, in particular, I want to thank the P4R team that is sitting there and there for organizing this fantastic event and for hosting us. The efforts of the Partners for Review Network really help the United Nations convey this message of opportunity for the implementation of the 2030 Agenda in a way that we in the UN cannot do it ourselves. So that is a really big entry point, a point of leverage that we all benefit from, and that allows the UN to more deeply engage with stakeholders and with government actors, both at the national, regional, and sub-regional level. So we are really thankful for that. Now, about the VNRs, as you know, the voluntary national reviews is one of the elements of the 2030 Agenda that is the main follow-up and review mechanism, and it has been a bit of an unexpected success. I don't think many member states would have expected that 4 years later we have a nearly universal compliance with the voluntary national review system, and only a few countries are left that have not that will not have done a voluntary national review by 2020. So we are well on our way. So these voluntary national reviews, of course, they had the primary purpose of reviewing the success of the 2030 Agenda at the national level. And these reviews were conceived to be a method of allowing countries to share their experience at the global level, which they, of course, still do. But what we have learned now over the past 4 years is that these voluntary national reviews create an opportunity at the national level. Far more even, you can argue, that the 15 minutes that these reviews typically take when they are being presented in New York. So this is a sign of maturity. The 2030 Agenda is now 4 or 5 years old. We still have 11 long years to go. We are seeing that increasingly countries are entering a second review, and that, of course, is very important because, as some of our statistician friends will confirm, tracking progress is not about taking a photo, but about making a movie. So you start somewhere, and you have a beginning situation, and you want to end somewhere. So the movie is still ongoing. So that is something that we continue to need to be working with all our partners, including, of course, with our great partners from Partners for Review in the years ahead. Then a quick word on the 2019 SDG Summit in September. Indeed, there's two main purposes. First is to reaffirm the world's commitment to the 2030 Agenda in the form of a political declaration that is being negotiated right now in New York as we speak. And the second one is, of course, to accelerate the implementation of the 2030 Agenda. And on that point, we are encouraging all countries to consider launching new initiatives to spur progress towards the 2030 Agenda when the summit is being held in September. There's an online voluntary SDG acceleration action platform that has been developed and has been launched recently, and the Secretary General has encouraged all countries to participate in the summit at the highest political level. And then to end, a word that I used earlier on is opportunity. As we have seen, the 2030 agenda is an agenda of opportunity at every level. And many of these narratives, many stories that we have heard yesterday and will hear today and tomorrow show that the 2030 agenda actually has inspired people at every level towards a more sustainable and inclusive world. And it has galvanized action, not just by member states and federal offices, but also by state and local offices. So I think we're on the right track. There's a lot of work to do, but I think that we are getting the process right, and that we can continue this and seeking this level of opportunity in the many years ahead. So with that, I want to thank you, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Trinison, for your words. Now, please welcome Mrs. Gemma Santana Medina. You have the floor.
No dejar a nadie atrás, no dejar a nadie afuera. A nombre del ingeniero Alfonso Romo Garza, jefe de la Oficina de la Presidencia de la República, agradezco al gobernador Alejandro Murat, Gottfried, Clement, Yolanda, gracias por estar aquí, por impulsar este evento. I feel very happy to be in Oaxaca, where I lived for 3 years, in the Istmo community. I have the best memories for this beautiful land. And now, Oaxaca is home of the important Partner for Review event, organized by GIZ and several German agencies. Only with the strong alliances, the 2030 agenda will come true. And Oaxaca is one of the places we can see the 2030 agenda advance and work. Congratulations, Oaxaca. I hope that these 2 days will be very rich in sharing experiences at the subnational, national, and international level. Thank you very much, and really, really a lot of success. Congratulations.
Thank you. So our next speaker is very special. He's the governor of Oaxaca, el maestro Alejandro Murat Hinojosa, please.
Antes vamos a presentar un video, ¿es verdad? We have a video to present before.
Oh,
We will open with that.
I better get out of the way then,
On
because I'm in the
economic
wrong
development.
spot.
Oaxaca has it all. Because we are worldwide competitors and we have the skills to achieve development. In the government of Oaxaca, we open our doors to the world, holding out international investment possibilities. We are one of the states with the greatest cultural, artistic, and biodiverse wealth in the country. Infrastructural sector. Our administration has a solid, ambitious infrastructural plan with major initiatives in which we are negotiating with the Federation for their support. As well, working with the federal government, the project to modernize the Trans-Isthmic train is being set up, with the objective of creating one of the most efficient transportation systems in the country for the transfer of heavy cargo and trade to the rest of the world, which will make it possible to interconnect the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, boosting trade between North America, Europe, and Asia, increasing the possibilities of trade in Mexico's goods, services, and energy. The Salina Cruz General Port Authority, at the direction of the state government, announced that a first phase of the railway service of the Salina Cruz-Puebla route has been reactivated. In the Tehuantepec Isthmus, we have already expandable infrastructure. 2 ports in operation, 336 kilometers of 2-lane highways, 308 kilometers of railway track, 2 refineries, 2 airports nearby, Minatitlan, and Ixtepec. Also, as part of the infrastructural development plan of this region, the two new freeways, Mitla-Tehuantepec and Barranca Larga Ventanilla, will be finished in 2020, connecting the state crosswise and lengthwise with the coast and the center of the country for the first time. Energy sector. Today, Oaxaca is the top generator of wind power in the country. It has 27 wind farms and more than 1,765 wind turbines, producing 2,756 megawatts, enough to illuminate more than 1.8 million homes. Recently, our governor brought in one of the highest investments ever made in this sector, $1.2 billion through the Mitsubishi Company, which will make it possible to build 135 new 300-megawatt wind turbines in the next few years and will contribute to the reduction of 1.2 million tons of CO2 a year. The state of Oaxaca, through the Piasa Group, now has a power plant fueled by cane bagasse from the Adolfo Lopez Mateos refinery, situated in the Papaloapan Basin. This plant has a generating capacity of 50 megawatts running on biomass, which will avoid the emission of 14,000 tons of carbon dioxide. Tourism sector. Oaxaca is nationally and internationally recognized as one of America's loveliest destinations. Travel and Leisure magazine described Oaxaca as the second most attractive city in the world to visit. And the New York Times rated Puerto Escondido Beach as one of the 52 places in the world to visit. Because of this, we are considered to be one of the most complete destinations. Our capital, a cultural heritage of humanity, enhances the flavor of our world-famous cuisine. Mole, tamales, and chapulines have delighted the most demanding palates in the entire world. The tourist sector strategy will focus on positioning Oaxaca as a cultural capital and on its being recognized as a world-class competitor in the area of tourism for its beaches, archaeological zones, cultural sites, magical towns, ecotourism and hiking, boutique hotels, cruise ship dockings, and the influx of business due to the new convention center. These days, Oaxaca has direct flights to the cities of Houston, Toronto, Los Angeles, and Dallas. Agricultural sector. We are one of the leading producers and exporters of fruits and vegetables. It ranks first in the country in the production of mangoes and papayas, second in pineapples, third in limes, and is a pioneer in the development of organic coffee. Mezcal is the spirit of choice among distillers, both in Mexico and around the world, and is available in 60 countries. The state of Oaxaca now produces 87% of the national production. Furthermore, our state is recognized the world over for the quality of its coffee. The government of the state has signed a collaboration agreement with the Nestle Mexico company in order to strengthen the state's coffee growing sector. Through this agreement, Nestle Mexico and the state government were able to invest 11 million and 7 million pesos, respectively, in training and monitoring in the production of Robusta coffee in the Mazateca and Isthmus zone. Mining sector. Oaxaca is among the top 10 states in the mining sector. Every year, it generates a value of 8.440 billion pesos in this sector and ranks 5th in silver production in the country. It also has one of the largest iron reserves in the world, the biggest in Latin America, with a potential for more than 200 million tons in Santa Maria Zanitza. Gold and silver reserves for 44,106,354 tons. Copper, 4,300,000 tons. Crystalline graphite, 31,600,000 tons. Iron, 80,330,000 tons. Titanium, 4,312,981 tons. The government of Oaxaca is seeking out the best partners and allies to generate growth and benefit the people of Oaxaca. Our great value proposal is to create a feeling of certainty with respect to investment, with a trustworthy and transparent government determined to make things really happen. Because of all of this and more, Oaxaca has it all. Government of the State of Oaxaca. Together, we build change.
So we're very excited to have you here in the state of Oaxaca. I'm very thankful to the United Nations, to the government of Germany, and I would like to thank everybody here, Gottfried, Clemens, and you, Thyssen, as well as the government of Mexico. Gema, thanks for helping us. And you know, these initiatives are fundamental for the world. It's clear that we're global citizens from any perspective, and globalization is a reality for positive things, but also for negative things if we don't react. And I think that that's the great part of this great initiative. Clearly the world today faces great challenges. Climate change is undoubtedly one of the biggest challenges we face, and it's created by humanity. We also know that more than half of the population today are in persistent poverty and inequality. And there's great room still, great opportunity for us to exercise human rights. And this type of conversations, especially now, as you mentioned, at a subnational level, I think are fundamental. Because it's not only about putting the objectives, but it's the biggest part of everything is going into action. And clearly us in government have to assume that responsibility and generate that change at different levels, either at government level, subnational level, or now at municipality level, like we've done here in Oaxaca. I don't know if you know this, but in Oaxaca we have more than 570 municipalities. So the whole idea, I think, about talking about hunger and zero hunger, or facing and trying to change and generate gender equality or sustainable cities. It's projected that more than half of the population now lives in cities. And all of those ideas have to interact with citizens. If citizens don't assume this change, not only from the government perspective or from the academia perspective, we won't be able to achieve the goals that we've set up. So for us, it's an honor, the state of Oaxaca, to receive the representatives of governments, of international organizations, of the productive sector and non-government organizations that are already working for the goals of SDG. As you know, Yolanda was telling me that there's representatives from more than 44 countries. Oaxaca is one of the most biodiverse states in Mexico, but also the state that has the most diversity in ethnic groups. We have more than 16 ethnic groups. Today we have maybe more than 40 languages. Well, Oaxaca has more than 40 languages. That's why I believe that for SDG to have the event here in Oaxaca is a great statement, because we face as a state the challenges that are set and the goals that are set here. But as you saw in the video, we also have great opportunities going forward. to make these changes that have been set up. So all the people gathered here this morning represent hope. And I recognize and appreciate your efforts. All of us want our children and our grandchildren to enjoy biodiversity, clean air, a world without violence, poverty, leaving no one behind. Partners of Review is an exercise of reflection, self-evaluation, transparency, and accountability. I'm pleased to announce that for the first time, this meeting takes place at a subnational venue, and for the first time, a Mexican state, Oaxaca, will present their voluntary state review. In partnership with HIS, we published this guideline for sustainable development for municipalities to include a perspective of sustainability and inclusion in the municipalities. Moreover, we're currently working on the alignment of State Development Plan of the 230 Agenda. We're thrilled to learn from all of you the efforts, the experiences that you have faced in your countries. And it's a pleasure for the state of Oaxaca to host the venue of this 6th Partners for Review meeting. It fills me with hope, and clearly it fills the world with hope to know that people from all over the world are working to achieve the SDG goals. I hope you have a great time in Oaxaca. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maestro Alejandro. It has been a pleasure to hear from the commitment of the state of Oaxaca, and we welcome your efforts, and we will take that as inspiration with these next 2 days of peer learning and exchange here. Now we are going to watch a video from the Guelaguetza 2019, which I heard is the biggest celebration in the state, and we look forward to it. So please join us for the video.
Mi tierra, mi pueblo, lleno de colores, música, danza y tradición, un mundo mágico, lleno de alegría. Julio, mes de la Guelaguetza, ¡que viva Oaxaca!
So we're going to continue in a moment. You can actually leave the stage if you like now. We're going to continue with our next panel. Let's give them another big round of applause for welcoming Oaxaca. Okay, well, while they're exiting, I just wanted to give you a few ideas. We have a lot of work ahead of us as a group. You know that this group is particularly focused because we are all focused on voluntary national reporting and how do we report with our various governments, how do we do this? And we are essentially a peer group. This is a group from around the globe that's very special. We have a very focused agenda. And one of the things that is very special, as they said, is that this is one of the first times that we're looking at sub-national implementation and really focusing on the scales of how do we tackle this at scale. And that's something that's very close to my heart. I'll just give you a little introduction before CNR comes back, and then we'll move on with our next panel. But I work at a sub-national scale, and I just came off the road from working at the municipal scale and working at the community scale with people doing roundtables. And it is such a different conversation. And we've heard that yesterday, talking to the mayors, talking to the municipalities. How do we tackle this issue of taking a very large global agenda? And I think you may have noticed this. I talked with a lot of people after the presentations with the mayors, and they were saying, isn't it interesting that as you drill down to the more local level, it gets more and more specific to people's local realities. I mean, how many people here, let's just get a feel for you. How many people here have worked at the sub-national scale in your work? Could you throw your hands up just so we get a feel for what's going on? Lots of people, okay. In fact, while I'm at it, how many people here,
this is your first P4R meeting, maybe just throw your hand up high. Throw your hand up high. Don't be shy. It's okay. That's great. That's what we want, actually. And how many people here, is it your second P4R meeting? Throw your hand up high, second. So we got some experienced people in the room. Look around, see who's there. How many people have been to 3 meetings? Well, lots of people. Lots of experience. Okay, 4. We've been 6, so I'm going to go right through. 4 meetings? Oh boy. So this is important. And the reason I'm doing this exercise is because we are a peer learning group. And some of you have been to these meetings, and you understand the structure of what we do with P4R. You understand how the meetings have dynamically changed over time. And so search out these people that have been to the previous meetings and find out what has happened at previous meetings. Who's been to 5 meetings? Okay, there you go. Oh, nobody? Nobody's been to 5 meetings. Well, there you go. So there's some up. There you go, Tomas. So if you ever want the real have you been to, and this is your 6th, so you've been to all the meetings. So if you ever want some institutional history of how this all works, please talk to Tomas. So back to this idea of looking at subnational reporting, I think it's extremely interesting because we have tried to do subnational reporting. I come from, if you know Canada, we have provinces, and I come from the province of British Columbia. And when it comes to doing subnational reporting, one of the most interesting things there is that in Canada, we're a bit like any federated state. We actually have multiple jurisdictional responsibility for the SDGs. Maybe I'll just ask a quick question. How many people come from countries in which you are split up at that subnational level in a very clear way when it comes to the jurisdiction? What I mean by that is in Canada, if you want to work on Goal 4, quality education, it's entirely in the hands of the provinces. The federal government doesn't deal with it, but they report on it. So do you see what I'm getting at? If you're going to go and do a report, who reports and at which scale do you report? You're nodding your head. You must come from a country where this takes place. I'm going to just jump down. Is that true? Do I have a microphone? Can I wander around with a microphone a little bit? I want to engage you folks a little bit. Do we have a microphone? Un micrófono, por favor? Okay. You're from which country? From Mexico. Oh, well then obviously, yeah. Are you from Oaxaca?
Yeah, I'm from Oaxaca.
Okay. And in Mexico, it breaks down into how many levels? Would you say 3? Municipal?
Yeah, we have 3 levels, the federal government, the state government, and the municipalities.
Okay, so you're very much like Canada. Yeah. Well, one more question before you go. In Mexico, can I pick on you a little bit? Is it okay? Is it okay for me to talk to you? You're not shy, are you? No, you're not shy. So I'll give you the microphone. I just want to know, in Mexico, do we have, are the goals, if you went to Goal 4, like in Canada, education, is that federal or is it state or is
federal, it? It's at the federal level, yeah.
Okay, so which of the goals are we talking about subnational implementation or subnational reporting? Which of the goals would the subnational groups like Oaxaca deal with?
Well, it will depend, like, for instance, like the first objective, like gender equity. At the state level, like we can identify many of the indicators that we report. That can be an example.
Okay, so it's going to depend. I'm going to just switch around, find another country. Somebody from, which country are you from? No, you're Mexican too, right? No, okay. Another country, come on, somebody's from another country, you are. Afghanistan, right? Yeah. So what happens in Afghanistan with subnational? How is the reporting done when it comes to the goals?
Actually, I would like to share with you a different thing with Afghanistan. Although we call it subnational, but in Afghanistan the context is quite different. We are divided administratively, the country, to 34 provinces.
34?
34 provinces, 3-4. But the thing is that the planning and budgeting processes are quite centric, meaning that they are just there, but they do not have any discretion on planning, on budgeting, allocation, and everything. And what makes it worse is that even the revenues that they collect on their provinces, they even do not have discretion on how to reallocate that. So they all come to the national government. So we can say that, in one sense, we can say that we do not have a subnational governance system.
Right.
And this was why last year we were to rewrite the subnational governance. And what we did, we saw that these provinces are not working because they do not have voices in planning that affect their lives,
Right.
do not have any discretion in the budget processes and other things. So what we did, we divided Afghanistan into 8 regions
Yeah.
as per the new subnational governance policy. On each region, we have a regional development authority that would plan, design, implement, and monitor the projects that will affect them and will identify the potential economic projects and other potentials in the
Yeah.
provinces so that we start another type of work. But still, we have not been able to establish them. By the end of this year, we will be able to establish those so that we would have a subnational system
Yeah.
in a practical way.
Okay, so my point here is we've just bounced around the world, and each one of you is coming from a completely different context, right? Each country is organized differently. And we're going to hear today from municipalities, for example. How do municipalities report? New York, you know, reported, right? So the question is, and each one of you needs to be thinking about this today, is who do you need to coordinate with or talk to in this group to answer the questions how you can better report in your country? So I'm going to ask a few questions here. Who here has never done a voluntary national report? Your country has never done one, or it's a brand new process for you, and you're here to learn how to do it. And don't be shy. This is fine. We know there's quite a few of you. So who here? You've come here to find out how this works. Throw your hands up. Don't be shy. Okay, who here is an expert? You've done it. You know exactly how to do a VNR report, and you know exactly how to tackle the question of subnational implementation, and you're absolutely on top of your game when it comes to municipalities. Throw your hand up. Somebody's got to be out there. There we go. Very good. So if they have any questions, they're going to come and ask you. Do you want me to ask now? No. You see my point. My point is that what we need to do is locate each other. For the next, in the next 2 days, we're going to be diving. Where's CNR? Is she going to come back and join me? Or I'm just going to keep going? I'm going to keep going while I'm going. I'm going to explain a little bit of the structure. What we're trying to do, it's very intentional. We're trying to look at who do you need to talk to better do VNR reporting. And so how do we locate each other? And that's one of the questions is, how do you do that in a group like ours? And you'll notice that you all got your Polaroids taken. Did anybody not get a Polaroid taken? Did you all get your Polaroids taken? Okay. So the idea is going to be this. We want you to locate. We're going to be giving out those Polaroids later. And we want you to locate the person that you have on the photograph. And then we want you to find them, and somebody else will be trying to find you. So it's going to be a bit of pandemonium, right? Because you're going to have people looking for you, and you're going to be looking for people. Find your person. And what we want you to do is we don't want you to be humble. I'm going to practice with you. You're from Serbia, right? You're from Serbia? I can't remember your name. You can't tell me your name again. Sorry, I'm going to give you the microphone. I got to get my Oprah thing going. And I hand you the, yeah.
I'm Dr. Ilsenevich Danilo.
Okay, can I practice with you for a second? Let's see, I just met you.
Let's try.
Okay, what I'm trying to find out is what is your sort of superpower? Like what are you good at that you know, and I don't want you to be humble. This is the key thing. Please don't be humble. You're trying to share so we can find out who's got expertise in this room and on what. Okay, so when it comes to VNR reporting, you're from Serbia.
Yes.
What is your thing that you can offer? You know you're good at it. What can you offer this group?
The advice on how to organize the process
Which process?
of writing and drafting the VNR.
Because you've written and drafted a VNR?
We're in the process of
In the process now?
Yes.
Okay. And where's your expertise on the writing? Do you do the writing, the data collection? Where are you
We organize the line ministries to work together
Okay.
in the process.
Okay.
This is what we do.
So what you're trying to do is you're trying to find the person with the Polaroid, find out what their expertise is, and now here I'm going to try somebody else. So just, can I, hablas español? No? Spanish, English, all good? No? Okay. You speak English perfectly because we've met. Yeah. So, and by the way, I'll also just say this, is that if your English is your second language, si inglés es su segundo lenguaje, es una buena idea para sentar cerca de una otra persona que habla en inglés en un mejor forma. So I just said, if you don't speak English as your first language, try to sit with somebody who may be able to help you to translate, because we don't have official translation, and also for people like me who speak really quickly, try to go slowly because it's hard at the end of the day for us all to be speaking English. I'm just going to ask you, what do you need from this meeting? So he expressed his expertise, but what are you looking for by the time you leave this meeting? Why did you travel from all over the world to this meeting?
Well,
First of all, your name too and where you're from.
I'm Nasser Maimanigi from Afghanistan.
Yeah.
I represent civil society and
A
media.
little closer with the mic. There we go.
Okay. For me, the experiences of others, I was quite blown away by the Oaxaca's experience of using data.
Yeah.
And that's an area that we've been trying to collaborate with the government so that they could share data, or we could share data with them so that they could use data generated by civil society organization and NGOs. So that's I'm trying to learn and get it from here, from this one.
Yeah. So so what you're trying to do with your Polaroid buddy is you're trying to zoom in, find out what their superpower, what their expertise is, but you're also trying to make them think and you understand exactly what would you want by the time you leave this meeting 2 days from now. So everybody think about that. What do you need and want 2 days from now, and be intentional about it? We're going to make you focus because we do these P4R meetings. We come together as community. If you go through the past agendas and the past subjects, you can read all the subjects that have been covered. But we are in a process now, 4 years into the SDGs, 12 years left. There is a sense of urgency. I just came from the meeting in Berlin. What were people standing up and saying? They're saying it's a call for alarm. And so now as practitioners of VNR reporting, we have to be very focused exactly what it is that you need to learn. And in your case, it's data. You want to be able to understand that subnational data.
Exactly, and we want data generated by others to be used as well for better and more complete picture.
Yeah, and that's a very complicated subject because, hi, Sayonara, how are you? So we're back on track. I've been talking a little bit about the structure, how we've structured it, why we're focusing on subnational implementation.
Excellent, thank you.
Now we want to go to our panel, correct?
Yes, please, let's go straight to it. As Mike has probably already explained, we have the privilege now to hear from all the 3 different levels, the national, the state, and the municipal level. So please welcome to the stage Ms. Yolanda Martinez Lopez, the Secretary of Social and Human Development of the state of Oaxaca. Back to the stage. Please take a seat. Ms. Isabela da Silva dos Santos, International Advisor of the National Confederation of Municipalities of Brazil.
Oh.
And Ms. Vaiz Barrij, the General Director of Planning of the Ministry of Economy of Afghanistan.
I'm going to take these titles away. There we go.
Thank you. Go ahead. So perhaps to honor our hosts, we can start with the state level with Yolanda. And now that we also can just make the link with the speech from the governor that we just heard, and we are also inspired and wanting to learn more from the process. So Oaxaca is the first state in Mexico to do the voluntary states report, which is very inspiring for all of us, bringing the agenda very close to the ground and working with that with the municipalities as well. Could you tell us a little bit about the process to come to that? What was the starting point to decide to do a voluntary state report, and what are the mechanisms that are put in place for horizontal level coordination, for example, and if there are coordination as well with other states?
Hi, hi again. Good morning. Oaxaca has done a really great job about the implementation of Agenda 2030. And I believe that evaluation is important and fundamental part of every process. So last year around March, we launched our State Council for the implementation. It's a follow-up body who guide the implementation of Agenda 2030 in the state. And as we set the rules of this council, the first part of evaluation is already among the rules. I mean, it is an indicator that we wanted to have to know how we've been doing, right? So around March last year, we launched this council, and after 1 year of working, really hard work, we want an evaluation. But we already have one. Like last May, 6th of May, we have the second ordinary session for this council, and in that sense, we have already a review. But we wanted also to have this voluntary review because we already have this tool, right? Inside of the council, we already have this tool. And I think many of you were in my speak in the morning, in my talk last morning, but I would like you to tell you how the council is working. The president is the governor. It is an independent body. I mean, it's a new institution among the state, and is formed by a president, which is the governor. I'm the deputy president. I mean, the Secretary of Social Development, the Secretariat of Social Development is, and we have also an executive secretary, which follows all the implementation, which is the Institute for Coordinated and Planning Development among the state. And we have 21 Secretariat of States in participating in this. And also we have civil society, municipalities, mayors of municipalities, academia, and productive sector. And we have done 3 arms of this council. We have a technical working group, which is the aim of creating this technical group was to do faster decisions and in an accurate way about technical issues. For example, how many working groups we will have and what is the methodology of these working groups. And in that sense, we create 3 working groups: the social inclusion, economic inclusion, and sustainable development. And every group is formed by an academia, civil society, and private sector, and of course one of the public servants in the state. So also we have the legal working group, which is really important because right now we are in the stage that we send the legal department of the governor receive or proposal of reform to the planning law, which means we want to integrate a more sustainable and long-term vision in the planning. So they receive it and they have to analyze it and then send it to the local congress, and it might be approved. Maybe we have to do some lobby as usual, but we hope to have this at the end of the year. And in that sense, we review all of these things. And also we are working with the municipalities. So it means we have help for the planning document that they have. It means that it's the core document for them in order to have public policy and to reach the aims they want. They put it in this planning document. And for do this, we have technical cooperation with GIZ, and they develop a guideline for these municipalities. Also, they do the training because, of course, we want to improve the capabilities and capacities of the public servants in the municipalities, because that's one of the main problems in Oaxaca. And also, we wanted to share with them what is Agenda 2030, what is the SDGs, right, and what they are working for. So we socialize this, and the proposal was really well accepted. And yesterday, many of you have the opportunity to talk with 2 of the majors that they are working already with the SDGs. So we have all these tools and actions, which means we are working with multi-level and multi-actors in this implementation of SDGs.
Thank you. That was very interesting. It's really good. It seems that you have a very good structure put in place right now, and also giving ownership to everyone, doing awareness raising inside of the government, but also with the population. That's very, very interesting. Congratulations on that work. If I can ask very briefly, because we'll have to move to the next panelist, if you could tell us one main challenge and one main insight that you got from this experience, what would that be?
The first challenge I see already, specifically for the voluntary review, is to create indicators. It's very challenging to adapt the indicators you have established in the Agenda 2030 to put it at the municipal, but also at the state level. So right now we are working really hard. We have like an institution that do the state statistics, and also then we receive the help of the national statistics institutions, but we are working hard on that. But we still have to put a lot of effort in analyzing all these tools, and also the coordination. I believe that to open the room for a lot of participations, but also a lot of different views, it's a challenge to have the participation. To coordinate all the efforts, all the visions, and how you put it all together in order to reach SDGs.
Thank you. That's a common challenge, I guess, we are all facing here, all of these issues of indicators, participation, coordination mechanisms. So we're going to have an interesting time the next 2 days trying to figure out and find solutions and draw from each other's experiences on how can we help each other fill these gaps and overcome these challenges that we are facing. Thank you so much, Yolanda. Mike.
Isabella, Brazil. We share very large countries. Yours is going through lots of changes right now, but like ours, you have an enormous number of municipalities. I wonder if you could just give us an idea of what you're up to in Brazil. Is it working? Try this one.
Yeah.
Hi, good morning. First, I want to say thank you for the Partners for Review for the invitation to be here and share the Brazilian experience in SDG. Well, I'm Isabella and I work for the National Confederation of Municipalities of Brazil. And we are an association that is independent and no partisan and no profit organization in Brazil, founded in 1980. And it's important to understand that our main objective is to strengthen the municipal movement by promoting police and technical initiatives to, promoting an image in chasing local management and people's quality of life. So CNM has politically represented Brazilian municipalities in the National Congress and in the federal government. And internationally, we are an active member in United Cities and Local Governments, UCLG, and the Latin American Federation of Cities and Local Associations. So with this in mind, regarding to our action in SDGs, since 2016, we have a project in partnership with the Initiative Art of UNDP, the United Nations Program for Development. And we started this partnership in a moment that in Brazil we passed for local elections. So we had these newly elected mayors. So it was important to us to communicate them the importance of this agenda and the local competencies aligned with the goals and targets. So we launched some guidelines to support them. And then we launched the Mandala 2, the Mandala SDG, that has like 28 indicators, local indicators, in a way that a mayor who doesn't understand what exactly is the 2030 agenda is and what is the global goals, they can understand how this is aligned with their local competences. So I want to highlight that our first challenge was like to have indicators in the local dimension. In the subnational dimension, I think it's a global challenge. So it's a common challenge for all of us. And we have these 28 indicators, and the two during these 3 years passed for some improvements to communicate better and to make more interactive. So today, these two provide like a dashboard for the municipality, so the mayors can know what they have to do in what the kind of policies they have to to take, no, according to their reality, to the situation. And well, right now they can make a report with all the information in the tool, and including an actualization that when it's possible to add some targets, some local targets in these indicators. So the tool is interesting because, well, it's a challenge. It's a challenge to communicate the agenda, well, in different sectors. And when we work with political sector, political mayors and governors and local technical staff, they have to understand how this is aligned with their actions and their competence, their demands, and because after all, they have to improve the people's quality of life because they are here, they are there for this. So it's important for us to make this clear for them. And I want to share too that this tool help us to provide information about the local and regional governments of Brazil to the local and regional report that launched for the UCLG in the past year in the high-level political forum for the first time. So after 2018, in all high-level political forum, we have this local governments forum where the local and regional governments can share their reports. And we can also know how was the implementation of the SDGs in all around the world. So it's very interesting to know that. And the tool provides us information to support the Brazilian voluntary national review, no? And also the report of the National Commission for the SDGs of Brazil.
So just to be clear here, you've been working on a project called the Mandala Project.
Yes.
And this is the process through which you've done this municipal national reporting.
Yes.
I'm curious, you went from, there's so many indicators. We have 232 or 241 indicators. How did you get it down to 28? And I'm curious about the data collection. How do you get data properly from municipalities and feed it up into the report? How are you doing that?
Well, I will share a lot with a lot of more information about this during this afternoon, but we wanted indicators, well, for all the municipalities. So was important that these indicators was for all the 5,500 municipalities. Indicators with periodicity for no more than 2 years. So it's another challenge because most part of the data in Brazil is like actualized after 10 years.
Right.
So we don't want this kind of indicators in our tool. And the another one is like our indicators is from official, official data institutes. So we are CNM, we don't collect any data. It's all from the national institutes. So it's because of this, we only have like 28 indicators and not 50 and 60.
Right. So any advice on people that may want to initiate this, who have not initiated working with municipalities in this kind of reporting? What would be the essence of what you're up to that you wouldn't want them to make a mistake on?
Well, if I have the opportunity, I will show the tool in the afternoon, because I think that when people saw how this works, they can understand better how this works. But for CNM, yes, it was a lot of trouble and a lot of work too, because in 2016, the 2030 agenda, it's in the beginning. So this discussion about the data collection and indicators was not so developed. So in CNM, we have this economic and research department that, well, we work with local authorities and local governments for almost 20 years. So we have a lot of experience in data for local municipalities. So with this, we analyzed the agenda and the targets, and before that, we select these 28 indicators to what was a part of the tool right now.
Yeah, it's a fascinating process to try to work at the municipal scale because we have such differences in how people understand the SDG agenda. All that,
Yes,
yeah.
and it's a work that we have to tell for our local governments that they have to provide information too, because sometimes, well, we work with data institutes, so sometimes the local government doesn't inform correctly, and then the information is not reflect their reality. So it's another part of the job too.
All right, we'll move on. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. So interesting. I wish we had more time to go deeper into all of these issues, but I guess that's why we have all the working groups in the next 2 days to continue this conversation. Now we're going to hear from the national level. Afghanistan is now aligning the national indicator framework with the SDGs, right? Could you tell us a little bit about how this process is taken on in the country? What are the steps that the government is taking, and what kind of structures you have established for that?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. A very warm welcome and good morning to all of the professionals of our great network and to our panelists. Let me first avail the opportunity and thank the German government and my colleagues at Partners for Review for provision of such a medium for us to share our insights and thoughts with regard to the development of our country so that we use it here and there. And I'm confident that what we discussed during these 2 days will be based for and will be useful for all of us, and particularly for those who will be presenting their VNRs in 2019 later this year, July. I'm representing a country with which is a bit different. It is a similar country like other countries, but with differences in context. I'm talking and telling you the story of a country which is in conflict, which is a fragile state, which is different. We are combating the evil of terrorism, the extremism, and we are combating with the narco business, with trafficking of that, which fuels the terrorism, unfortunately, in the country. So you might know about Afghanistan that the terrorism and security and insecurity has cost us, for the last at least 4 years, some 45 to 50,000 of our brave national security forces has been killed to defend the country, and a double number has been injured. So the civilian casualties are in rise from 2002. You know, beside these uncertainties in the current peace processes, because Taliban claim the enemies of the nation and the enemies of the people of Afghanistan, that they control over 50% of the land of this country, over the 50% of territory. So in such settings, of course, planning and all these things are different than normal processes that we go in other countries. So these are the challenges, besides other challenges of development that other countries have, like the poverty rate and other things. That our poverty rate is more than 50. 55.4% of people are under poverty rate. So 1/4 are unemployed. Almost 50% are insecure from food terms of view. So these are the problems that our country has. And this is why SDGs are unfortunately not among the first top priorities, 1, 2 priorities of the government, because government has to defend the state first, to do some other pressing things that are in front of them. But beside all of these, there are very good achievements that we have got. Since we've started the process of nationalization, it was, the responsibility was given to the Ministry of Economy through the Council of Ministers. So what we did, we started the structures. First, we started a structure which is called the Executive Committee of the SDGs, which is led by the Chief Executive, the Prime Minister of the country, the second political figure of the government, which is a very good point for us to have the political will on that. So we have that, and the members of that are the ministers. Beside that, we do have 4 working groups. We have divided all these goals to 4 working groups, like, for example, health, education, and social security. We have got the agriculture and rural development. We have infrastructure and economy, so such divisions. And the good is that beside that, we have the secretariat of the SDGs at the national level, so which is within the Ministry of Economy. We are the Ministry of Finance as the one that provides finances is there, and our development partners like UNDP and other donor communities that are there. So we have got all these structures in place. So what we have done for the last 2 years, after conducting of 25 high-level political meetings led by the Prime Minister, and 70 technical meetings led by ministers, Minister of Economy, and attended by deputy ministers. Part of that, what we were able to do, we finalized the nationalization process, through which we identified 16 out of 70 goals. We didn't take the one life below water, which is not, more relevant to us, let's say, for, at this time, because, we are a landlocked economy, by the way. And we identified 112 targets and 178 indicators for the country, part of these practices that we did. And beside that, what we have done, we did another structure is that we identified the government entities, the ministries, as lead and supporting government bodies. So currently we have got 62 government entities. There are 25 ministries, and the rest are independent bodies reporting to President. So 26 of these budgetary units, we call them, whether they are ministry or an independent body, they are the leading entities which they are responsible for the alignment process, for the nationalization, and for the reporting and all these processes. And there are 51 other line ministries and budgetary units who are supporting them. So this is another structure that they go deeply, work on technical issues, and find all these similarities, and see who would be responsible for which goal and for which targets and indicators. And this is why we've got that. Beside that, what we did, we come up with a communication strategy, because we thought this is very much important, not only at the national level, but also to communicate to the sub-national level, and also with other actors, particularly the non-government actors. So we have come up with that, we have finalized that, and we have come up with the implementation plan for that. Currently, we are in the process of alignment and localization, so that we be able to align all these goals and indicators that we've said, the SDGs, with the local policies and strategies, and we are in the work toward that. And one thing more which is underway is we are working to develop the SDGs National Development Framework, which will inform future public policies for the next 10 years, which will start from 2020 to 2030. Because currently, in Afghanistan, we have our own priorities. We have the Afghanistan National Peace and Development Framework, based on which the international community is supporting us towards the path to economic development. And it is until 2021. So what we did, currently for these years, we are aligning these SDGs with them, but for the next 10 years, there will be a strategy, a framework that this will change the processes, and everything will get its from that framework for the next 10 years. So this is a great work that we are doing. But there have been some challenges that we'll discuss probably later on. Yeah.
Well, that must be an impressive effort, especially facing the challenge that you have in your country. And I think we all hope that the SDGs can serve as well as a foster for peace, and you find opportunities within that context to foster peace with international cooperation, but also with cooperation at the national, at the local level, at the subnational levels. And I'm interested, you mentioned that you have, part of your coordination, you have communication of the subnational level, and I imagine it would be interesting as well to hear perhaps from the first two speakers, if we have the chance for that, on how are the efforts happening at the subnational level, the indicators they're producing, data, information, etc. How is that process? And especially if you have organized situations like you have in the state of Oaxaca, or you have the Mandala project in Brazil, how can you utilize that, all of that energy at the subnational level to help create progress at the national level and to help create more substantive reporting processes on the SDGs? Do you have insights on that for us?
Actually, with regard to this, as we are still in the initial phases, we have not actually finished the localization processes. As I mentioned earlier, one of the problems in Afghanistan is the structure, is the government structure. That we do not have subnational governments in a practical way, so that they plan for themselves, they have the resources for themselves, or even they do not have, as I said before, they do not have discretion on the revenues that they collect. So everything is quite centric in the country. We are only administratively divided them to 34 provinces, but everything is done from the center. So this is why you do not see much voices heard from the localities there. But what we have done recently, we advocated for that. We sit with the president and we rewrite the subnational governance, where we would have 8 regions. We will have regions which will, they will then identify their priorities, they will identify the potential, particularly the economic potentials that are there, and then they will help us with the processes of planning and also reporting and monitoring mechanisms. What we did recently, by the help of the Oxford University, was to come up with the data for the poverty segregated by provinces, the multidimensional policy, the poverty, which is the MPI. So we had the data from the Afghanistan Living Conditions Survey, which was conducted in 2017, and we just released the data of it on 2018. What we did, we released the results of the multidimensional poverty index in late 2018. And we started to plan the SDGs based on the findings of this, because they're quite similar. MPI has 5 domains. It's health, it's education, it's living standards, it is economic shocks, and it is labor market. So they're quite similar to all these goals of the SDGs. So what we did, because we have the data not only at the national level, but also at the provincial level. So what we did for that, we went and we started planning at provincial level. We engaged the provinces. We invited the provincial directors of economy, the deputy provincial governors, who are technical people, because governors are more political people. So we trained them on these. We coordinated with them. And we've started the processes of planning for SDGs based on the findings of the MPI. And the thing was that I said before that the poverty was 54%, and MPI found that 51.7% of the population are deprived from multiple dimension poverty in this point of view. So we've started this, and the good was that we had very good findings which enabled us plan 4 provinces, because only for if you have the monetary poverty data, you cannot, you do not know where to address. So this MPI helped us with the support of the Central Statistics Office of the country, go to provinces, and we are currently, it brought a new shape, a new shape for the planning processes for the SDGs, and which, unfortunately, before we had a planning fatigue in provinces, because provinces were coming up with their provincial development planning processes, but they were not heard at the national level due to lack of budget and all these, and they were not aligned with the national priorities. So these things are according to the priorities of the people. People also want schooling, health, everything, and these are also also has come through that. What interesting thing that we found through that is currently we are in the processing of localization, and it helps us in planning, is that we found that 41% of all those who are deprived in health are deprived in all other 4 dimensions, which was very much interesting. So we say that it gives you, insights where to focus, where to invest more. So we start investing more on health and then education. So by the time if you invest in these 2, and you have the data segregated by provinces, then you know where to address and where to find the poverty gap and then fill it. So these were the things that helped us formulate the processes despite having this very much centric planning and budgeting processes in the country.
Yeah, you're kind of hitting it on the button, aren't you? Because we are shooting to try and find that person that's been left behind, the gaps, as a sense. And I'm curious, 3 very different countries, different contexts. We have municipal, state, and we have a national approach. I think I heard this morning there's 44 countries out here. So everybody's coming from a slightly different context. And I wonder if we could share a sort of a jewel in your experience from what you've done. How do we foster or help this subnational reporting process? What do you think is that was common to all countries? What can we be doing? Is it the people or the institutions? Is it the methodology, the toolkits? What do we do that can really get us to move forward on this idea of fostering subnational reporting? Why don't we, any order, it doesn't matter. Go ahead. Yeah. And we've got just a few minutes, so we don't have too much time left. But is that working yet? Yeah, there we go.
Well, hi. In Brazil, I would say for the Brazil reality and maybe the Latin American reality, but our subnational government sometimes doesn't have the technical power to respond for their competences.
Capacity or power? Is it capacity or power? Is it? You know what I mean? Do they have the power to do it, or they need?
No, yes, they have power, but not the technical support to face their challenge.
Yeah.
So in Brazil, a way to face this challenge is to empowering the institutions. So, for example, the National Confederation of Municipalities and also the regional associations of municipalities in Brazil have more than 200 associations of municipalities that can, in a way, to be more close to the municipalities and subnational governments, and maybe the civil society too. So a way to empowering these institutions in a way to empowering the population too is a way to give more substantial information for these local governments and subnational governments to take action aligned with this global agenda, and also makes a kind of a kind of action to make the national government to be involved in this agenda too.
So in my case, I would go back to Canada. I would look for which institutions, like in our case, it's the Canadian Federation of Municipalities, and I would try to empower those
FCM, no?
institutions.
Yes,
That's the jewel. All right.
Well, I know, well, I'm saying this because we have some examples of municipalities that start a real interesting job in the agenda. And because of that, the government of the state is starting an involvement to take action in this agenda and start a project to make the another municipalities know better about what is this. So it's a way to, because, well, in Brazil have the National Commission, and the way that the Commission acts, it's also to improve the subnational communication. So it's really a bottom-up action to active the goals.
Now, it's nice to hear you say civil society. What about at the state level? What about in Oaxaca?
I think it's a combination of actions. As we said before, like should be like multi-actor and multi-level actions. And for me, for Oaxaca, the best thing to do at municipal level is, first of all, a really strong communication campaign. What is the Agenda 2030? What does this mean, the SDGs? How to get involved every person at the municipality? You know, as you know, Oaxaca is a region for a lot of indigenous people live here. They also need to understand, to feel that they get involved in these SDGs, how to translate it into its language, its original language. So for us, it was like a combination of things. First of all, to touch the majors of the city. Second, it was a training, a process for the authorities at municipal level. And after that, the communication campaign with every citizen. And, you know, the best way to say is, well, you are getting involved in the SDGs with anything you do, since take a shower in 3 minutes until pay taxes and create formal jobs. So I think that's the best way. And also, the international cooperation, technical cooperation is helpful. For us, works really well because it goes straight to the core of the planning process of the state, and also the core planning process of the municipal level. So in that sense, everything is aligned. The actions, the legal framework, and of course, we are aligned to the national level as well.
And making it so that's so important to get those multi-stakeholders and all those views there. In Canada, we have the exact same issue. We have indigenous peoples. When we drill down, statistically, that's a group that gets left behind. How do we get them involved? Now, what about in Afghanistan? What's your jewel of advice that you could give to people that may be living in a context that you are around promoting that subnational work, reporting?
Actually, what we find is the issue of communication.
Communication.
Communication. Communication can help, you get more out of the energy that is down in subnational level. As was discussed yesterday as well, what we did in provinces, once we went for localization, when we're talking to the officials down in provinces, to the civil society, to the citizens, and to all the public, the thing was the issue of terminologies that we found there. We were talking about the same thing, but we were saying goal number 2, 3, and that, and they were saying it's housing, it's schooling, it's health, and all these. So what we did, we started to revise the communication strategy that we worked. And we saw that really it helped. Now, for the last 2 months, we see the keenness of the people, how they are very much interested in SDGs processes. They are calling us, the officials who are in provinces, the directors of different sectors, sectoral directorates. Citizens are approaching our directorates of economy down in provinces and asking, how is this SDGs? This is why we were able to start communicating with them that what we call it SDG, it is your needs.
Yeah.
But in a different language. So what we found that what we matter is the communication, how you communicate it to the people so that you convince them that what they want is what we are really working for them, one. The second problem that we found was the issue that people and civil society, they were thinking that this 2030 agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals, are the agendas of the government. They were not thinking that they are also, it also affects their lives. So by the time you communicate and you tell them that these are the things that will affect your lives, they are much ready. So what we did, beside this communication strategy, we come up with tools, how to build the capacity of the people, how to tell them what does this data mean, using this data in a friendly way for them so that they know, because citizens are not in a state that we are so that they can interpret the indicators and all the data that we give them. So this showed to us that it helps. And we at the Ministry of Economy with the Central Statistics Office have started to see where are the interfaces problems of the data, because currently the data are not communicating at sectoral level and also at different layers of the government, national and subnational level. Yeah. So we are now working with the civil society, and it was brought by one of the civil society organizations, my colleague is there, that we do need to have a synchronization mechanism so that the data that is there at each layer and in each sector would communicate with each other, and the data that is provided sometimes by the NGOs, by the civil society organizations, they are in a same structure. One point, and the other point is that the data is produced for every type of users in a different way. Yeah. For citizens in another structure, for the civil society, for government in another one. So this was what we found.
Yeah, that gives us a really good flavor of, hopefully a taste of where we're going to be going in the next couple of days. I think we have to move on to our coffee break pretty soon, hey?
Yes, yeah. Not before some housekeeping.
Let's do some housekeeping
strategies. Yeah, but we would like to thank the panel very much for this. We keep the need for technical capacity, the awareness raising, and the effective communication to drive this forward at all the different levels. And it was a very interesting conversation, and we can continue throughout the next 2 days.
Let's give them a hand. Everybody, let's give these guys a hand. Thank you. We're going to do a little bit of housekeeping, so you can just take your seats if you want. It'll be easier. Yeah. So we have a few things we need to go over just so that we make sure that you all understand some of the things that are coming up. Like you were going to explain the WhatsApp thing, right?
Okay.
Because I don't understand WhatsApp. Yeah.
Did we already go to the structure of the meeting?
I kind of did earlier. I talked about this. You weren't there, but I talked a little bit about structure. I got a taste for who is in the room. We have a real mix of people in the room.
Excellent.
We have some people with tremendous experience. Tomas is the only person who has been to all of the meetings. But other than that, we have a variety of people. But actually, while we're at it, you've been to, 3 meetings now, right?
Yes, this is my 4th meeting.
4th meeting,
yeah.
Okay. And I just going to say, there is a way, maybe you could explain the graphic presentation, because it's such a wonderful way to understand what happened at previous meetings.
Exactly. I don't know if you noticed, but outside we have the graphic designs, which is the recording of the memory of all the previous experiences of all the previous meetings. So please go around, get someone that has been in that one meeting, and have a conversation about what does this mean? What was actually the discussion behind this fact here? And it's a good way of getting the flavor of what has been discussed before. Yeah. And I think this brings me back to something that we have to do at this moment. Talking about the structure of the meeting and the previous meetings, We have had many meetings with, a lot of panel discussions and all of that. And I guess more and more we get the need to get concrete, to go into small groups and etc. So to announce now officially, this was the last panel of the meeting. Now I guess we can shake off the formalities and get a bit more practical as well. So yeah, just wanted to put that out there. We want to have more and more ownership to ourselves within the small groups. So we're going to have a series of working groups discussions, and then we're always going to bring back to the panel to have this conversation with everyone else.
And our conversations are different than in previous meetings in that they're quite long and they're quite detailed and they're staying focused on those subjects. We're not breaking into as many groups, and this is part of the responsive mechanism of the folks that are planning the meeting. Maybe I'll also just mention, just in case you didn't know, is we did live stream this morning because there are people who are not in this room that we can presence in a sense that they've come to these meetings in the past. You may have met people here in the past. And if they're not here right now, some of those people may have live streamed and joined us. And also just to mention that while we are 84 people here, we are quite a large community. The P4R community is high. Do you remember how many people it is?
I don't know how many we are. Are we 500?
I think on our online community, who can answer that question? How many people do we have in our online community? Okay, perfect. I knew somebody would know the number. So 328 participants online. You have about 213. If you're not sure how to get online, it's quite easy. We can pass that information around and share that so that you realize that in between these meetings, there's a way of communicating and sharing information, and don't be shy about sharing your information. It does get eaten up by some people who are right in the middle of a process.
Yeah, this is a very important information. You just have to go on the website, on the P4R website, and on top of it, there will be P4R community. Just click there, you can sign up very quickly, and you can be involved. And it's a great space to share what you are doing and also to get information from what others are doing, events around the world, things that can be interested there or related to the work that we are all working on. So,
before you explain what's up, let's do a little quiz. How many of you understood what's going to happen with the Polaroids? Throw your hands up. You're clear as a bell what's going to happen with the Polaroids. That's how many of you still do not understand what's happening with the Polaroids? Throw your hands up. Can you explain? I obviously didn't do a good job. What did I do wrong? I thought I was really clear. You're going to get a Polaroid. You're going to go search for the person with the Polaroid, and what are they going to ask them?
Yeah, put on the spot. So did everyone get a picture already?
They all
from
got
someone
their
else?
pictures. Yeah.
Great. If you didn't, then go outside, and there are 2 boxes outside. Just grab a picture randomly. And if you also didn't get your picture taken, now it's the time during the coffee break. Please look for one of the P4R colleagues and take your picture, because the exercise is to connect with at least 2 people through this exercise. Someone is going to take my picture, and I'm going to get the picture of someone else. And we have to find this person. I have a picture of Mike, let's say. I go to Mike, and, hey, now we are forced to network.
Forced to have to talk to each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask, what are you here for? What is your expectation for this meeting? What do you want to get from that?
Yeah. And I'm also going to tell you about my superpowers, which is I'm super good at something, whatever it is, and you're likewise, and we're going to find that out so that we can share it with the group. We're going to be honest about that, and we're also going to explain why we came here and what we don't know, so we can pinpoint what it is that we need to go home with 2 days from now, exactly what it is that you want to learn.
Yeah. So we all have one picture. Just find that person, and that's the exercise. And when you find this person, you can give the picture back to the person. So we are all, in the end of this meeting tomorrow, we are all going to go back home with our own Polaroid picture. And if you want to add a little detail, you can write in the back of this person's picture, what is your superpower? What is that you can offer? What are your abilities? What are you working with? What kind of tools do you have? What kind of experience do you have that you can offer to this person? So write it down and give the picture back to the person. This way we're going to know. We're going to have very fresh in our memories.
In fact, why don't we just tell them, it's a strong hint, write it down. Because later on we may come back to those Polaroids and you might want to have written down exactly what was on that other person's mind, okay? We're cheating a little bit, but just write it down on the back of the photograph and remember what they were looking for. Yeah. We want that kind of interaction and networking going. This WhatsApp business, a picture tells 1,000 words, right? A picture can tell 1,000 words, and you all have cell phones. Anybody not have a cell phone? You can borrow mine. No, you've all got cell phones. Who doesn't have a cell phone in this world? So take a picture, if you didn't, if you had a chance, you took a picture yesterday maybe during the celebrations, or you see something special that allows you to capture with a picture the essence of what you're learning or what you would like to discuss or share with other people. We're going to have a little WhatsApp moment at one point. You can explain WhatsApp?
Yeah, we all got an email, I think 2 days ago, with a link to join our website, our WhatsApp group. If you haven't done that yet, please do it. And in that group, we're going to be sharing these pictures at this moment tomorrow morning. We are going to start the day with some, breaking the ice a little bit, showing some of these pictures, and then we're going to stop at some of them randomly, and we're going to ask the person to explain what was that insight that you had while you were looking at that picture. And it can be a learning moment, as Mike was saying, or it can be an inspiration. You can look at this building with this very interesting architecture, for example, and say, I see something very rough here, and at the same time, we can make it so beautiful with all of this, and I can translate this to my work that way. So find your artistic vein and translate to those pictures.
Okay, so finally, and I know you all want to go and get some coffee. We're going to go for a coffee break. We're running just a little bit late. But if we can also ask you to presence, in a sense, the previous meeting. Because who was at the previous meeting? Throw your hand up. Berlin? Okay, Berlin. I'm not going to quiz you, but in your mind, just to see if you're active, can you remember the burning questions? Can you remember I know it's hard to go way back to that meeting, right? But when we left that meeting, we had some burning questions. And these are the kinds of things that we were unable to answer at that meeting. And that was recognized in the evaluations and by the P4R team, who works hard to try to make these meetings make sense. They came up with a list of burning questions, right? And we have that list of burning questions where it's outside.
It's right outside. On this side here, there is a big panel with the burning questions written up there.
So if you're brand new to this meeting, here's 2 things you can do that are really good. Go out to the graphic design and read through that. It'll explain in a very quick way what's happened at previous meetings. If you want to remember where we are at as a P4R community in our process of understanding voluntary national reporting and how we can make that happen, then go and look at the burning questions. And you'll see some ones that are pretty hard to answer, actually. I was looking at some of them this morning, and I was thinking, that's not going to ever get answered.
Yeah.
How do we do transformational change and implement that as individuals and across scales? But read those questions, because that'll give you an idea where we are at as a community. Where is our collective need to peer learn?
Yeah, and the idea is to build on previous meetings, right? So we can take, we met for 2 days in that occasion. What were the issues that we couldn't solve? Do we already have some questions? If you have a Post-it and you have some ideas for it, feel free to get that Post-it and place it right next to the burning question, for example, as a proposed suggestion for a gap that someone is having.
Okay, can we go for coffee break, or do we need to explain our next
Yeah, there is just a few extra details. One, as we were supposed to have the group picture taken during lunchtime, but we are not going to do that. So it's too hot. Everybody's going to be looking like this to the sun, so it was moved to 6 p.m. So right after we finish the day today, we're going to go outside for the group picture. So there is that change in the agenda. And the second item is related to the VNR session, which is our first working group sessions that is going to happen right after the working group.
Basic explanation of how to think about this. Okay, so there's 2 groups, and one of them we're considering an experienced group. So if you've got a lot of experience doing VNRs, you're a lot of experience with Partners for Review, go into that group, right? The other group, we're trying to recognize that for some people that would be a little too deep, too quick, and also you may have a lot of questions or a way of asking questions that we want to kind of reserve for, we don't want to call you newbies, but I would consider myself a newbie in that sense, and I'd want to go in that group. I have never personally done a VNR report. I want to understand how this works. So we have 2 groups. And one of the things we really want you to do in these 2 groups is think about cross-fertilizing, in the sense that if you've got a lot that you already know, we want you to be able to share it with the other group. If you're the other group, you need to be able to ask good questions. You need to ask good questions from people who've already done VNR reporting so that you can understand how to up your game. Are you following us on this? So there's 2 very distinct groups. We want the groups to get together so they can share, hey, how do we do this? What are the key questions we need to ask? What are the methodologies that I'm lacking? How do I tackle subnational? I've never done it before. What do I do? Go in that group. If you're a group and you feel like, hey, I've done a lot of that before, then go in the other group, and then we are at the end going to be bringing both groups together, and we're going to be challenging you to share your information. It's the essential nature of what we're doing here in this meeting, is to peer learn. Is that making sense? Nod your heads if it's making sense. Yeah? You're all getting it? Anybody not making sense? No? Because you can stand up and tell me how you're confused now, or us, and Sayonara is going to answer exactly how to solve their confusion. They don't look confused. So shall we let them go and have some coffee?
Yes, please.
And when do they come back and where do they go? Because you know what happens in coffee. Everybody goes for coffee and then they don't know what they're doing next.
Yes.
So
we are a little bit behind the schedule. We didn't manage the miracle of being on time.
Yeah.
So if we can maybe shorten the coffee break to 15 minutes, but feel free to bring your food or coffee to the rooms. The rooms are just behind across this big hall here, so please go directly to your respective rooms. There is a sign in front of it with the name of each of the VNR discussions.
And if you were at one of the other meetings, don't hesitate to go to the graphic. If you were at meeting number 3, go to meeting number 3 and help explain to people what happened. That's how we share, right? And for those of you, grab your coffee, look at that graphic, those graphics, and understand what's going on. And if you were at one of those meetings, go to that meeting, because the few people, and Tomas is going to have to run around to all of those graphic presentations. All right, we'll see you in a little while. Have a good coffee break. Very good. Did we get it all? My microphone's still on. Check, check.